Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had a good one, and welcome to the new year, and of course, where we'll be discussing some old topics. This particular video, we are back to the threat to trigger Article 16. This is because this is just one of those bad ideas that just won't die. So I thought we'd cover that a little bit, and no doubt we will cover it again throughout the year as various events unfold. For anyone new to this channel, I'm the Collaborative Negotiator. I'm a professional negotiator with over 10 years of experience, and I like to comment on current affairs and apply the lessons and the skill sets that I know to explain how things work in the negotiation sense. So let's look at the current threat to trigger Article 16, which is a very standard threat dynamic that some people might use in negotiations. But before we do that, a very quick little recap for those who might not be up to speed on current events, which is that before Christmas, Lord Frost, the UK Brexit negotiator, quit. He stated reasons due to that being of COVID and restrictions and mask wearing. Not many people took those stated reasons credibly. They believed he left basically a rat deserting a sinking ship. And so the job was given to Liz Truss, who is the current Secretary of State, was International Trade Secretary, which actually I think makes her the sixth Brexit negotiator for the UK. Someone can correct me if I've lost track. There have been so many over the years, which in itself tells you something, I think. So where we were, where the UK was that Lord Frost was giving up, making threats of triggering Article 16. He had realised that position was untenable. However, Liz Truss seems to have decided to regurgitate that particular threat. She has also been making quite a lot of noise, and various other Brexiteers have been making the noise that the role of the European Court of Justice needs to be removed from the Northern Ireland Protocol. And if that demand is not met, then they state the threat to trigger Article 16 still remains on the table. And that's what this is. This is a threat. It's not constructive. It's not constructive negotiation. It's not tackling a position. It is just yelling a threat with no firm proposals, no firm details, no firm explanation of anything really behind it. So let's look at what the EU has done in recent months. Again, a bit of a recap. And there's two things worth summarising for the EU. One is the carrot. So they have looked at the issues associated with Northern Ireland protocols and the trade between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. And they have identified that there were issues, and they put proposals forward to deal with those specific issues. So specifically things like the movement of trade goods between mainland Great Britain and Northern Ireland, so meat and medicines and so on. So they compromised because they did not need to do this. It was firmly enshrined in the Northern Ireland Protocol that the UK government should be doing the checks. But the UK government has refused to, and the EU has, in slightly surprised move, compromised on this. And actually, in some ways, as I've covered before in the previous video, the compromise actually suits the EU. This is because the EU doesn't really care about the trade side of it. That's not what they're interested in. What they don't want is dumping. And that's essentially a whole host of illegal goods to come through Northern Ireland into the EU single market. So what they have asked for, instead of having checks and barriers to trade, is to see trade flow data from the UK government to understand, so they can identify if any excessive goods that shouldn't be coming through are and being re-imported or re-exported rather to via the Republic of Ireland. The UK government, I don't know what their response has been to that, but we've not seen any particular detail. So yeah, the EU has also been willing to delay these checks. These are things the UK government should have already been doing, but has not, have been dragging their heels. And again, the EU has been willing to allow them more time to get the infrastructure, to get the people, processes and so on into place. although it has to be stressed at this point that there is little evidence that the UK government has actually done that. So this is again kicking the can down the road. It seems to be part of their strategy of refusing to comply and then claiming there's a problem because, of course, they didn't comply with the first thing they were meant to do. So, which very much undermines the UK government's position, because at the end of the day, it's hard to negotiate credibly if the other side doesn't see you having fulfilled your end of the bargain. And the EU will be keenly aware that the UK government has not fulfilled its end of the bargain. However, the EU is stuck in a bit of a quandary in that they need to protect an EU member, the Republic of Ireland, and they also wish to protect the Northern Ireland and the peace process. So they have been willing to compromise a lot more than they normally would do. What they have also done, which has the dual purpose of reinforcing their negotiation position and undermining the UK government, it made it very clear that they're willing to listen to the views of those in Northern Ireland and to invite them to participate in the discussions and negotiations. This is a position that the UK government has resisted. I wonder why. But the EU has done. So actually, the EU are in a good position here in terms of Article 16 and Northern Ireland Protocol, because there is considerable support within Northern Ireland for what the EU has proposed. The counter to that is mainly the Unionists, who have not been enthusiastic, but that's because they don't like the Northern Ireland Protocol at all. Never mind the proposals offered by the EU, but they haven't actually really made any decent arguments against the proposals proposed by the EU, because of course those proposals are seen as quite reasonable. So this makes it very hard for the UK government negotiators, or Liz Truss specifically, to argue anything back. They need to actually identify specific problems and make counter proposals. That is not what's been in the public domain. All they have done is stuck to the untenable position that the European Court of Justice should have no role in Northern Ireland, which obviously is untenable for anyone who understands how the EU single market works and how those laws are applied. There's a lot of misinformation going out on here. So, of course, the threat still remains that they will trigger Article 16, to which the EU has made a counter threat, the stick. So they've offered a carrot, and they've also got the stick. And there's two parts to this. One is that the Northern Ireland Protocol itself does allow the EU to put up trade barriers if Article 16 is triggered. Because Article 16, you must remember, is a unilateral action, and it's meant to be taken after negotiations have failed. So currently, the UK and the EU are under negotiations. If the UK then break off negotiations and take the unilateral action of triggering Article 16, the EU is permitted by the protocol to put counter-actions back to remedy any adverse effects as far as trade barriers are concerned. So whatever the UK does, the trouble is the UK government hasn't made it clear that the UK government doesn't actually have the right to invoke Article 16 to remove the entire Northern Ireland Protocol. Article 16 says you can only selectively remove the bits that are causing serious harm, serious economic, political damage. So they have to be specific in what they remove. They can't just remove the whole protocol. And so the EU can be equally specific in retaliation. That is one stick that they can apply. But as I've previously mentioned, the concerns of the UK government are not seen as particularly credible or genuine. And therefore the EU has recognised that and applied a bigger stick to apply more pain, shall we say, directly onto the mainland. And nowadays they threaten that they will suspend the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, which is going a bit further, and they haven't been specific of whether they would fully suspend the agreement or, again, like the Northern Ireland Protocol, only suspend bits of it. But judging by past performance, when the EU has had to do this sort of thing, mainly with the US and China, the EU bureaucracy has been very smart in targeting specific industries, specific sectors that would cause the most political damage to the side on the other side. So that is probably what the EU would do if the UK actually does trigger Article 16. Whatever the UK does, the EU will be able to do better. That is the summary of this. However, there's no need for the UK to do anything because the EU had put proposals down on the table. They are there. They are there to be discussed and negotiated, countered and agreed upon. And if the UK is unwilling to do that, then the UK is not acting reasonably, shall we say. So that is the EU position. However, it is not just about the EU, we also have the US. So we know that President Biden has made it a personal commitment to protect peace in Northern Ireland. He made that very clear, and that position is shared right across the political spectrum by Republicans and Democrats, by Houses of Congress and Senate. So there have been various warnings coming out from the US to the UK government that if they trigger Article 16, the US would not look kindly upon that. So they've made it very clear they consider that a threat to peace, they consider that as acting in bad faith, and the US government is simply not willing to support the UK in that matter. Now things have been ratcheted up a little bit because, as been recently reported, the US had now lifted steel tariffs that former President Trump did apply on EU imports of steel. And back then, the UK was part of the EU, and therefore the UK also were subject to these tariffs. Now that the UK is outside the EU, it has to be a separate decision whether to remove these tariffs from the UK. And the US has made it very clear that it is not making that decision at this time. It hadn't been an explicit statement, but it had been a no-brainer to everybody that the US had linked this to Article 16 threat. And basically said, remove that threat and we remove the tariffs. The UK government publicly has made no statement on it, apart from trying to pretend that is not the case. Privately, who knows? They will probably be making reassuring noises to the US government that actually they won't be triggering Article 16 at all. This is all just noise for, purposes. I'll talk about that in a bit. However, I'm not getting the impression that the US is being particularly tolerant of the UK at this point in time, particularly on the Northern Ireland Protocol. So it has to be borne in mind that the US has considerably more options than just steel tariffs. There's a whole host of things that they can do, like the EU, to harm the UK economy. They can put barriers, restrictions in all sorts of places. They can even refuse to agree to trade deal with the UK, which is much to the frustration of Johnson and Truss in particular, I imagine. They really want that US deal. That's a key thing for the success of the Brexit project in their eyes. And the US, under President Biden, with full political support, will be denying that to the UK. So that means that you've got the two biggest players, perhaps, in the world, and certainly most important trade partners to the UK, fairly much saying the same thing, or similar things, which are don't do it. So why is Article 16 still on the table? I mean, what kind of insanity would you do? What kind of credible threat is it that you're basically going to insist on self-harming yourself if people don't give you what you want, especially if you can't clearly articulate what it is you want in a way that actually makes sense? So really, this whole threat to trigger Article 16 is an empty threat. And one of the things I always teach people in negotiations is don't make empty threats. In fact, probably don't make threats at all. I never threaten anyone with anything in my negotiation, but I don't need to. That is not how my negotiations operate. But really, all I do is I will state, this is what I'm going to do. This is our position. This is what will happen. Perhaps I might even add, these are the potential consequences. I don't make a threat. I just say, this is what I will or won't do. So, at the moment, everything associated with Article 16 is perceived as an empty threat. Now, no one can guarantee that. no one can guarantee that Liz Truss and Johnson would not be insane enough to cause the UK economy significant international and economic harm. And they've done that already, so that's already the consequence of Brexit. So you cannot rule out the possibility that they will be willing to trigger Article 16 in order, for a political end, despite the resulting harm that this would cause to the UK. But I don't think they'll do it. Apart from the fact that that would be politically extremely damaging, I think also it will harm the other projects that are key to Brexit. For example, trying to do trade deals with other countries such as India. Because one of the other implications of triggering Article 16 is that it would make the UK seem as an unreliable partner for agreeing international treaties and trade deals. And that will have consequences for the other trade deals that the Brexiteers want as part of the Brexit project. So my personal opinion is I don't think they will trigger Article 16. I don't think it's credible. All it is noise. And the threat to trigger Article 16 is basically politics for the domestic audience, particularly those who strongly support Brexit, who want to see visible demonstration of the UK standing up for itself, even though in private, obviously, different things would be said to both the EU and the US. So what does that mean for us? Well, unfortunately, it's still damaging, even just domestic noise, because of course it will be noticed by US and EU negotiators, politicians and their media that the UK is still making this noise. And at some point, the UK is either going to have to carry out this threat, which is basically like playing Russian roulette with a fully loaded revolver. You can guarantee the outcome will be messy and spectacularly bad if they actually carry out the threat, or they'll have to back down and walk back from the threat, at which point that totally undermines the credibility and the negotiation position. So for them to do that, there has to be a political reward. And right now I'm struggling to see what that political reward can be other than just distraction and delaying the inevitable, which is all the other consequences of Brexit and mismanagement of COVID and so on that the government is trying to fight. So that's my take on this threat. The only people issuing it are those who act like a lame duck, who have no power, no ability, and just making lots of noise in order to try and generate perceived power, trying to claw back the balance of power. So when you make threats like this as a negotiator, if they're not seen as credible, if they're not seen as anything constructive, then it basically is seen that you've lost your place, you've lost the plot, you've lost the position, and you've lost all power. So that is my take on this. Let me know in the comments if you find this interesting. If you found this analysis helpful, please do like and subscribe. And yeah, we shall see what the next few weeks bring of things to talk about.